Dapatkah langkah kecil di antara sunyi menuntun pada cita yang tak terbayangkan? Dari sebuah cermin yang memantulkan mimpi dari seorang anak yang tumbuh dan mulai mencari jalan hidupnya. Dunia yang dulu terasa jauh, kini ada di genggaman. Universitas Terbuka hadir membuka jalan bagi siapa saja, dari mana saja, untuk terus belajar dan berkembang. UT menawarkan fakultas dan jurusan yang beragam untuk menjangkau segala minat dan potensi. Tak hanya itu, UT juga berkomitmen pada pelestarian lingkungan dengan menerapkan konsep Green University yang dilengkapi fasilitas ramah lingkungan. Ribuan mahasiswa tersebar di berbagai wilayah, dari Sabang sampai Merauke, bahkan hingga luar negeri. Ini membuktikan bahwa di UT, belajar bukan lagi soal tempat atau waktu, melainkan tentang kesempatan yang terbuka luas untuk semua orang. Di Universitas Terbuka, teknologi bukan sekedar alat, tapi jembatan yang menghubungkan mimpi dengan kenyataan. Berbagai inovasi pembelajaran dihadirkan, mulai dari tutorial berbasis AI, siaran radio, UT TV, hingga dunia virtual dan metaverse. Bahkan terdapat sistem ujian yang fleksibel dan inklusif. UT memastikan akses pendidikan menjangkau seluruh pelosok, dari kota hingga desa. Dosen dan tutor UT hadir melalui layar, suara, dan ruang digital. Dengan teknologi, menjangkau yang jauh, menguatkan yang ragu, membimbing setiap mahasiswa menuju ilmu tanpa batas waktu, tanpa jarak yang menghalangi. Universitas Terbuka memiliki 775 dosen tetap yang tersebar di seluruh Indonesia, serta memiliki 35 profesor dengan target peningkatan 2,5% per tahun. UT juga didukung oleh ribuan tutor aktif yang memfasilitasi pembelajaran. Setiap langkah kecil yang konsisten, lambat laun menjelma menjadi pencapaian besar. Universitas Terbuka tak hanya tumbuh, tapi terus membuktikan kualitasnya. Prestasi demi prestasi diraih, penghargaan dan akreditasi menjadi bukti bahwa kualitas tak pernah diragukan dan komitmen terhadap pendidikan terus dijaga. Inovasi lahir bukan sekedar pembeda, namun sebagai jawaban atas kebutuhan belajar yang terus berkembang. Dari teknologi pembelajaran terkini hingga sistem yang lebih ramah dan inklusif, semua dirancang agar pendidikan dapat menjangkau ke semua lapisan. Terbukti, berbagai terobosan ini telah berhasil memperoleh sejumlah paten.
Pendidikan adalah kehidupan yang terus hidup. Mari kita jadikan ilmu sebagai bentuk eksistensi diri kita sebagai manusia yang terus ingin belajar. Semoga cita-cita kita semuanya untuk menjadi mahasiswa yang menempuh pendidikan di Universitas Terbuka ini akan lahir sebagai manusia-manusia yang hebat.
Harapan saya buat mahasiswa UT jangan pernah kecil hati dan jangan pernah patah semangat, dan mudah-mudahan membuat kita komit untuk bisa menyelesaikan perkuliahan di UT. Semangat terus!
Harapannya semoga Universitas Terbuka di era globalisasi ini dan juga di era digital tetap berkualitas dan tetap menjangkau yang tidak terjangkau. Pendidikan berkualitas di Indonesia terus merambah kemana-mana.
Di balik langkah kecil seorang anak, tersimpan mimpi yang begitu besar. Bukan tentang kemewahan, bukan tentang harta, tapi tentang ilmu, cahaya yang mampu mengubah masa depan.
Terkadang, ingatan membawa kita kembali ke awal. Ke masa saat dunia adalah taman bermain yang luas dengan penuh rasa ingin tahu. Dan lihatlah kini, semangat kegembiraan dan rasa ingin tahu itu telah mengantarkannya menjadi bagian dari sebuah perjalanan besar. Perjalanan yang ia jalani di Universitas Terbuka. Tempat impian dan potensi tak pernah berhenti bertumbuh.
Good morning, good afternoon, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan, Rahayu. Welcome to the public lecture of Master's English Education, Universitas Terbuka. We hope you enjoy the initial videos about Universitas Terbuka. Let's begin our journey of learning today with a touch of tradition. Here is a verse to inspire and welcoming us all. Texts and talks we analyze. Patterns deep in speech arise. Discourse leads the way we teach, meaning meet in every reach. My name is Diana Puji Utami, alumna of postgraduate student in English Language Education Program at Universitas Terbuka. And it is my pleasure to be your moderator for this afternoon session. Before we dive into today's topic, please allow me to share a few guidelines to help ensure a smooth and engaging session for everyone. First, if you are comfortable, please keep your camera on to help create a more engaging atmosphere. Second, kindly use the official virtual background. The link of the file is in the chat box. Third, to maintain audio clarity, keep your mic muted unless you are invited to speak. Fourth, questions are welcome. Use the chat or the right-hand feature during the question and answer session. Last, at the end, a form link will be shared for your certificate. Please enter your full name and email correctly. Thank you for your cooperation with these guidelines. And for your information, this public lecture of Master of English Education can also be seen from YouTube channel Universitas Terbuka TV. It's a tremendous honor to have so many distinguished individuals joining us. We are especially privileged by the presence of the Director of Universitas Terbuka Postgraduate School, Professor Dr. Insinyur Maman Rumanta, M.Si. Welcome, Professor. Your presence adds significant value to our event. We are so incredibly excited to welcome our esteemed speaker, Dr. Ungku Khairunnisa binti Ungku Muhammad Nordin from University Technology Malaysia. Dr. Ungku Khairunnisa, thank you for dedicating your time and expertise to be with us today. To begin our program and seek blessings for our session, let us take a moment to pray according to our respective beliefs. May this lecture be beneficial and insightful for all of us. Pray commences. Pray concluded. Ladies and gentlemen, here's a brief overview of our program for this afternoon. After this segment, we will respectfully listen to the national anthem Indonesia Raya and the hymn Universitas Terbuka. Following that, we will have welcoming and opening remarks from the Director, Professor Dr. Insinyur Maman Rumanta, M.Si. Then, the core of our event will be the presentation by Dr. Ungku Khairunnisa in the Ungku Muhammad Nordin, followed by an interactive question and answer session. I will then provide a brief summary to wrap up the lecture. Now, we invite everyone to prepare themselves to respectfully listen to the national anthem Indonesia Raya and the hymn Universitas Terbuka. Thank you.
Sebagai penerus bangsa.
much. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and esteemed participants, it's now my great honor to invite Professor Dr. Insinyur Maman Rumanta, M.Si, the Director of Universitas Terbuka Postgraduate School, to deliver his welcoming and opening remarks. Professor, the virtual floor is yours.
Mohon maaf, Prof. Mikrofonnya masih di mute.
Baik, terima kasih Bapak Ibu sekalian. Thank you for your coming. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan, Rahayu, Rahayu. Yang saya hormati dan yang kami banggakan narasumber, yaitu Ibu Dr. Ungku Khairunnisa binti Ungku Muhammad Nordin dari Universitas Teknologi Malaysia. Terima kasih Bu Ungku sudah hadir.
Sudah, Prof, sudah.
Ya,
Ya.
terima kasih atas kehadirannya dan kami sangat bangga atas kehadiran Ibu karena memang Universitas Terbuka sekarang sedang gencar-gencarnya ya, giat-giatnya untuk menjalin komunikasi dengan perguruan tinggi dari luar, tak terkecuali dari Malaysia, untuk memperkaya keilmuan mahasiswa-mahasiswa kami di Universitas Terbuka. Yang saya hormati para dosen yang hadir pada kesempatan ini, juga para mahasiswa, khususnya mahasiswa Magister Pendidikan Bahasa Inggris, serta seluruh hadirin yang berbahagia di mana saja berada. Pertama-tama marilah kita panjatkan puji syukur kepada Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, Tuhan yang Maha Esa, atas rahmat dan karunia-Nya sehingga kita bisa berkumpul pada kesempatan ini walaupun melalui media daring, namun tidak mengapa karena memang teknologi sekarang sudah menjadi bagian yang tak terpisahkan, khususnya teknologi digital dan internet pada saat ini. Dan alhamdulillah sekali lagi kita bisa berkumpul, bertatap muka dengan baik ya, dimanapun. Mudah-mudahan suara saya juga bisa terdengar baik. Bapak sekalian, kuliah umum merupakan bagian yang integral ya, yang menyertai kegiatan pembelajaran di Universitas Terbuka. Nah, kami menyajikan tema-tema yang penting juga dari berbagai perguruan tinggi, baik nasional maupun internasional. Dalam hal ini misalnya kita mengundang dari Institut Teknologi Malaysia, ya, Ibu Ungku. Dan kemudian ke depan juga banyak sekali yang akan kita sajikan. Dan ini merupakan bagian dari salah satu pengayaan yang kita berikan kepada teman-teman mahasiswa S2 untuk supaya lulusan S2 di Universitas Terbuka itu tidak kalah dari lulusan perguruan tinggi lain. Karena Bapak sekalian tahu bahwa Universitas Terbuka sekarang sudah menjadi PTNBH, dan tentu saja kami ingin meningkatkan kualitas pendidikan setara dengan perguruan tinggi tatap muka atau PTNBH maksud saya yang lainnya, di mana sekarang itu sudah baru ada 21 PTNBH di Indonesia, yang salah satunya adalah Universitas Terbuka. Tentu saja ini menjadi kebanggaan bagi kita semua, dan semoga Universitas Terbuka ke depan akan semakin maju dan semakin maju lagi. Dan alhamdulillah program studi Pendidikan Bahasa Inggris ini, Magister Pendidikan Bahasa Inggris, sudah juga terakreditasi unggul gitu ya. Unggul artinya Bapak sekalian, teman-teman sudah tidak perlu lagi meragukan kualitas yang kami sajikan. Bahkan setelah unggul, kami berencana untuk meningkatkan akreditasinya menjadi akreditasi internasional. Oleh karena itu, kerjasama luar negeri ini akan dijalin mulai semester ini, dan hingga tahun 2026 kita ingin menginisiasi akreditasi internasional. Jadi itu kuliah umum itu sekali lagi Bapak sekalian merupakan bagian yang integral ya di dalam meningkatkan kualitas pembelajaran di SPS Universitas Terbuka, khususnya pada program studi pendidikan bahasa Inggris. Nah, tema yang diusung sekarang ini adalah Integrating Discourse Analysis of Social Media into English Language Pedagogy. Tema ini saya kira sangat penting Bapak sekalian, karena sosial media ini sekarang itu sudah sangat masif ya di kalangan masyarakat. Itu tidak hanya orang-orang dewasa, bahkan anak-anak kecil saja sekarang sudah bermain sosial media. Saya kira tema ini sangat penting, di mana sosial media itu bisa menjadi ajang komunikasi sebenarnya. Jadi ada positif, ada negatifnya. Sehingga kalau tema ini bisa menggunakan sosial media untuk pembelajaran bahasa Inggris, itu saya kira sangat bisa gitu ya, karena teknologi ini bisa positif, bisa negatif. Nah, yang positifnya barangkali nanti akan bagaimana mengintegrasikan sosial media ke dalam pembelajaran bahasa Inggris gitu ya, bahasa Inggris. Dan saya kira sekali lagi ini sangat menarik, dan sebagai institusi PJJ tentu saja ini penting gitu ya, karena kita menggunakan teknologi digital, teknologi multimedia juga, dan medsos menjadi bagian yang tidak terpisahkan dari pembelajaran di Universitas Terbuka. Saya berharap Bapak Ibu sekalian, kuliah umum itu sekali lagi berikan wadah ya, wadah yang mudah-mudahan bisa memberikan informasi maupun ilmu yang lebih luas lagi dibanding hanya sekedar kuliah di Universitas Terbuka seperti biasa gitu ya. Dan ini adalah bagian dari kuliah itu. Kuliah umum ini mudah-mudahan mendorong lahirnya pendekatan pembelajaran bahasa Inggris yang lebih relevan. Ya, kalau misalnya Bapak Ibu sekalian sebagai guru di sekolah menengah ataupun di mungkin di sekolah menengah atau di mana saja, itu dengan adanya kuliah umum bisa melahirkan pemikiran-pemikiran baru lah gitu ya, yang relevan, yang bisa memperkaya pendidikan teman-teman, khususnya kepada peserta didik nantinya. Pada para mahasiswa, saya mengajak pada teman-teman para mahasiswa ya untuk menyimak dengan baik, antusias, dan silakan terlibat di dalamnya. Jangan hanya sekedar menyimak gitu, tapi juga aktif bertanya, berdiskusi, dan menjadikan sekali lagi kuliah umum ini menjadi wahana untuk memperkaya keilmuan saudara-saudara sekalian sebagai mahasiswa Pascasarjana, dan nantinya mudah-mudahan bisa menjadi lebih profesional di dalam mendidik anak-anak, terutama pendidikan bahasa Inggris di sekolah menengah atau dimanapun di mana Anda bekerja. Saya kira itu saja, Bapak sekalian. Mohon maaf kalau ada kata-kata yang kurang berkenan. Tapi sekali lagi kami menginginkan supaya kegiatan-kegiatan seperti ini, dan bukan hanya ini, barangkali Bapak sekalian nanti sebagai mahasiswa UT akan ada berbagai kegiatan lainnya yang melalui online seperti ini. Misalnya ada bengkel saintifik, ada pembimbingan, mungkin pembimbingan TAPM gitu ya, kalau di beberapa prodi yang lain, bersama pendidikan bersama TAPM dan lain-lain. Juga mungkin ada tutorial internasional dan lain-lain. Itulah yang akan memperkaya teman-teman di dalam menyelesaikan studi di Universitas Terbuka. Dengan demikian, sekali lagi kami berharap setiap kegiatan yang kami sajikan dapat dimanfaatkan dengan sebaik-baiknya, sehingga lulusan Universitas Terbuka sekali lagi akan meningkat dari tahun ke tahun dan tidak kalah dengan lulusan perguruan tinggi tatap muka yang mungkin teman-teman sebelumnya mungkin ingin masuk ke pendidikan tatap muka. Tapi mudah-mudahan melalui Universitas Terbuka Anda bisa mendapatkan ilmu yang lebih baik lagi, karena kami menjamin kualitas pendidikan di Universitas Terbuka akan setara dengan perguruan tinggi tatap muka. Saya kira itu saja Bapak sekalian, dan sebelum mengakhiri sesi paparan ini atau sambutan ini, saya akan memberikan pantun ya. Boleh nggak? Ya. Tolong cakepnya boleh kan? Sinar mentari menerangi perkemahan pramuka.
Cakep.
Angin berbisik berhembus di antara rimba raya.
Cakep.
Terima kasih atas dedikasi Ibu untuk Universitas Terbuka. Semoga sukses dan berkah menyertai Ibu Ungku Khairunnisa. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Professor, for your insightful remarks and for your great words.
Thank you.
Now we have arrived at the main event we have all been waiting for. This lecture will be delivered for 45 minutes. I would like to inform you that the question and answer session may also be carried out during the explanation session from our speaker. If there are points that are not understood, or if you want to ask questions directly, you may use the raise hand button after the lecture ends. You may also write your questions in the chat box if you want to ask a question. It's my distinct pleasure to introduce our esteemed speaker for today, Dr. Ungku Khairunnisa binti Ungku Muhammad Nordin from University Technology Malaysia. She will be sharing her valuable perspective on integrating discourse analysis of social media into English language pedagogy. Dr. Ungku is a senior lecturer, Language Academy, Faculty of Social Sciences and Humanities, University Technology, Malaysia. She completed her bachelor degree from Victoria University of Wellington, her master degree from University Malaya, and a PhD from University Malaya on critical discourse analysis. Her expertise lies in areas such as critical discourse analysis, Language and Gender, and English Language. She's also a prolific author with numerous publications, including recent work like first, Discursive Strategies Uncovered, Understanding Chinese New Year Speeches, second, Representation of Victims and Perpetrators of Sexual Harassment in Malaysian Online Newspaper, and third, an analysis of ISIS female sympathizers as young learners in the Guardian Online. Dr. Ungku also had several experiences during her career, such as committee member, as coordinator, head of research group, and supervisor in the area of English language education. And of course, you can contact her via her email on ungku@utm.my. Today, she will explore integrating discourse analysis of social media into English language pedagogy. Ladies and gentlemen, before we invite our esteemed speaker to the virtual stage, let us reflect on the journey ahead with a short verse. Scrolling feeds from night till day, tweets and posts in endless streams. Discourse shapes the words we say, teaching English through online themes. Now, to guide us further on this bright path, please welcome Dr. Ungku Khairunnisa binti Ungku Muhammad Nordin from University Technology Malaysia. Dr. Ungku, the virtual floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much everyone. First of all, selamat petang dan terima kasih kepada pihak Universitas Terbuka, especially to the lovely pantun from Professor Dr. Maman and also the one who contacted me, Dr. Bahasa, I believe. Thank you so much for the opportunity and of course, my lovely moderator, Puan Diana Puji. Right? I am so sorry if I did not get the names right. I'm trying to learn. And I hope that all of you will enjoy my sharing session. I would call this sharing session. Before I start, I would also like to state the fact that before I had my PhD, I was also a teacher for 12 years. So I truly believe in equipping young learners, especially secondary school learners, in terms of improving their presence, online presence in the digital area or digital platform, because at the end of the day, that is the real world context anyways nowadays. Okay, may I start by sharing my slide or should I? Okay, hold on. Can I send request to share slide or I'm waiting to share the slides. I'm nervous, yeah, because this is my first time. I'm having like almost 100 participants all over Indonesia and perhaps in YouTube as well. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I hope that we can also share our experiences and also, of course, anything related to research. That's something that I welcome as well, because I'm also in charge of some a course basically on language and communication in digital culture in University Technology Malaysia. So there are a lot of I would say research on digital discourse related also to the English language pedagogy. Okay, for today, my sharing session revolves around integrating discourse analysis of social media into English language pedagogy. Okay, moving on. I am from Language Academy, Faculty of Social Sciences and Humanities, Johor Bahru branch. If at all some or a few of you would like to collaborate or email me, please do so, as mentioned by the moderator just now. That's my email. Okay, moving on. I will try to discuss based on these topics, yeah. So the first is the brief overview of what is actually discourse analysis and how does it relate to the English language teaching, and how can we apply some of these analysis or approaches in our everyday teaching style or pedagogy. All right. And also moving beyond that is how relevance of discourse analysis is actually in language teaching context, especially in our modern era nowadays, where students input uh, is not just solely based on what we teach in class, but more of what they learn from the social media. And we have to agree that social media itself is another ball game altogether, and the language itself is relatively different than the normal textbook English language, as we all know. And then also looking at how social media is now a side of discourse. This is where not just us, but also our youngsters look at how they, for instance, yeah, identity, how they represent themselves, how do they read all the text, do they read all this text in the social media in a way that enhance communication, or does it, are they also open to a lot of misinformation? Not just misinformation, how about looking at, are they polite even in the social media platform? Why are we talking about all this? Basically, if we look at today's situation, in Malaysia particularly, the concept of cyberbullying is very much relevant to this topic, as how we actually determine the notion of cyberbullying itself. So basically, when we talk about speaking and also writing in social media, we have a lot of things to look at, and also a lot of things that we can actually help students understand to improve their politeness, for instance, to improve their ability to actually comprehend text better, to avoid also misunderstanding. And moving beyond that is how can analyzing online communication enhance English pedagogy? As for these particular questions, I try to cover it in the form that what are some activities relevant or we can try to adapt in our classrooms, and also apply in our teaching and learning context in our classroom itself. Okay. I hope my voice is clear. As you can see, even now it's online, right? So at times I might need a thumbs up or things like that just to confirm that I'm still online and things like that. I hope that it's okay with all of you, yeah? Okay, for now, questions for the audience. Because of course, as I mentioned just now, this is definitely a sharing session. You might have your own experience. I also might have my own experience. And then I would like to get some feedback on when some of these questions. Yeah, for instance, when does online talk feel different from face-to-face talk? Have you ever had any experience where you think that, for instance, a face-to-face interaction is better than an online interaction? Any answers in the chat box, perhaps? Like for me, I'll just give one example. Yeah, in my university, sometimes the Viva session is conducted online. So I believe that at times, it is better to conduct all these Viva sessions face to face, because there are a lot of gestures from the examiner aspect and also the student, which help in making more sense, and also to deliver the information needed, which might be very different if it is in an online kind of setting. All right. So some of you might have some idea of how different it is talking online as compared to face to face. Or maybe, for instance, what happens if someone breaks the rules of online conversation? For instance, have you ever had the experience whereby your students send you a lot of confusing emojis? Are they like seeking help? Are they asking you an advice, or are they suggesting something? And then it is also followed by certain emojis that at first it's like crying, and then after that it's like smiling, you're also as confused. So these are the things that we can actually look into when we analyze social media discourse using discourse analysis, right? Are all okay? If okay, thumbs up perhaps. Can you see the video? I hope it's clear, yeah. When nobody respond, I get quite scared. Am I alone here? No, right?
No, no.
Oh,
We're still
okay.
with
All
you.
right. Sorry, I'm like
Yeah, we
this
can
little
hear
bit
you.
here
It's
and there.
clear.
Yeah, thank you so much for the response. Okay, moving on. So just now, I've asked you all the possibility of examples whereby the online interaction is very different from offline. An example, as I mentioned just now, is in fact the face-to-face Viva session, where for some, especially the student, it would be very helpful if they do it online because it sort of makes them feel more comfortable and more relaxed because the examiner is not in front. But at times, if the examiner is in front, it's easier to actually try to help make sense of certain concepts by showing through gestures and also body language. Okay, so now we come back to the main concepts in discourse analysis. So what is discourse analysis? I believe that everybody has their own notion of what discourse is. The first key concept that we need to know when we are talking about discourse is that discourse is everything. Yeah, contrary to belief that is discourse is text, discourse is spoken, it is actually combination of everything. So for instance, when we talk about discourse, usually what researcher would analyze is the textual analysis, but not forgetting we also have spoken interaction analysis. And now, of course, since there are mixtures of emojis coming in, pictures, you look at Instagram, for instance, we look at YouTube and Thread, for instance, all these social media sites, they also have videos and emojis coming in and also captions, hashtags, for instance, all these is a language by itself, and thus we use multimodal type of analysis to actually analyze all this. So now what is discourse? Discourse is what is surrounding us, embedded in our own culture, in our social context. And look, how do we actually engage with all this is through language. And how do we analyze them? Basically, to three big umbrella, which is the text itself, the spoken interaction, and also images. Okay, now, not just that, whatever we say, it has to make sense according to language or the context that we are in. So context is very important, not just that something might mean differently in another country all by itself. Uh, Besides that, of course, we use language to exemplify power, to show, for instance, a simple example would be during COVID, how the Prime Minister actually addresses all these um, things in order for the rakyat to calm down during COVID and things like that. They use certain words and certain strategies, and um, how do they actually say things in public is also different and congruent with all the other administrative people. So again, that is how language help to establish power. All right, not just that. If you look from another perspective, identity. So we have a lot of social media influencers. So all these influencers, of course, chooses one type of identity to show. And how do they exemplify that? It can be they are like very urban, they can be very young and vibrant, they can show that they are successful. These are the identity that they want to show online. It might not be the real identity offline, but they use certain language strategies in order for them to show these positive sides. And having said that, these are the things that I believe the students need to realize in order for them to have a very good identity or a persona in the social media and in their social media site. There are certain strategies that they can apply. And how do we analyze all these strategies? Of course, we use discourse analysis, not forgetting ideology itself. But of course, ideology is very much related to power. From all analyzing the text, analyzing the spoken interaction to certain approaches, we can now look at these micro things and move to the macro discourse features. So basically, how are all these things focuses on how does all this sorry, I repeat, from all these micro things we move on to all the macro aspects of language. So how does all these words relate to the social context? Again, if I may, I come back to the concept where in the COVID, how does certain repetition of words help to actually make the public realize that the COVID or the pandemic is controllable? It's something that we can overcome. For instance, they use pronoun. Certain things in the address from the prime minister, he will use we. We is a collective thing, something that we, the rakyat, the public, and also the administration will be able to overcome. So all these small things are actually very much chosen by the one writing the script. It's not, it's already planned in a way. So hence, how do we relate all this? Perhaps we can teach students critical reading skills also to understand the different functions even of small things like pronoun and also certain adjectives, whether it's negative or positive, which are put in all these texts and not just political texts but also social media sites. All right, moving on. Of course, as I mentioned just now, critical discourse analysis concepts are very much related to the micro and macro structures. We used to analyze all these micro sections in order for us to actually analyze and relate to the current situation in which the whole situation is. So, for instance, if again, I like to use the COVID example. So, again, using CDA, perhaps you can see the ideology behind all this, uh, all this COVID and how actually, Prime Minister show that they are capable to actually, solve problems. And not just that, for instance, in Malaysia nowadays, the concept of Madani, where we want all the rakyat to have a very good relationship among all the races. We use this concept of Madani. So hence, how our Prime Minister actually used this word a lot in all his public speeches and political speeches to ingrain this concept, especially to the younger generation. So that's one part, looking at it from that perspective. We can also move beyond that or look from another perspective, which is the spoken interaction. So, for instance, in spoken interaction, we have, or we can look at it from speech act perspective, pragmatics, and also GRICE. So these are the theories related to how we analyze spoken interaction. Okay, for instance, if we look at speech act theory, hold on. So if you look at speech act, why speech act matters? It's because when we talk in online, we do not have other cues. Sometimes we read things differently from one another. That's why in certain as simple as a comment in thread, for instance, when we talk or when we write, the response will be very different from one person to another. That's how we interpret. But again, by teaching students speech act, first we can help them to actually learn how to politely request, because in speech act, all acts are divided into different types of action. So every sentence is an action. So is it advice? Is it a suggestion? And all those, right? I believe that all of you would know that speech has its own categories and things like that. So again, actually looking at social media is relatively different, yeah. When they write in social media and how they speak it, or how it is being spoken by them in the natural setting. Sometimes advice becomes a request. Sometimes apology becomes a request, and thus a lot of I would say uh, mis misinterpretation and also clashes come from not being able to distinguish what kind of a speech act it is in the first place. So I believe it is a very good strategy for some of us to inculcate in our classes to use real life examples of speech act in, for instance, YouTube video to the comments, because there is one study uh, conducted by one of the students in UTM. I'm just sharing. Maybe some of you would to do it in your relative university, right? Mm, it's focused on speech act, but looking at how they actually teach how to exercise in YouTube. And it is interesting because when we realize that when we analyze things, um, it's difficult to actually determine what kind of a speech act is that in the first place. It becomes, is it advice? Is it requesting? And how people respond to all this are quite different. So again, perhaps speech act in social media needs to be revisited. And it is interesting to see how your students respond to how they interpret all this speech act itself, if given such exercise in the classroom. Moving on, not just speech act in spoken interaction, we can also look at it from the pragmatics aspect, particularly in terms of politeness. This is something that I think very important because it's for me, I believe that cyberbullying is also related to this. How do I relate? First thing, pragmatics is more it's for this particular notion, I would focus on politeness. Yeah, politeness is about saving face, and then in a real situation, how we actually save our face and the one we're talking to is quite different than in online setting. Of course, in online setting, we use a lot of emojis. I don't know, all of you, I believe some of you or most of us would use emojis, right? To, sort of give the context in which the whole thing is being spoken. You look nice today. And then you give the clown face. So what is that? Is it, because I had that once received that, you look nice today, and then the clown emoji, and I don't know how to react. People, I was like, is it a sarcasm? Is it genuine? Do I rely on the emoji? Is she even polite in the first place saying that to me? So all this coming into my head. But I believe that is the same case with most of us as well. If the emoji is something different as to what is being said, so is it polite in the first place to do that? Do we get the same interpretation? Do we stick to the text or do we stick to the emoji? So all of this, I believe, is something that we can share with our students. That perhaps when you want to say things, you have to make sure that the emoji and also the text is congruent. Not just that, they have to practice giving comments politely to avoid and also maintain harmony. Not just that, I believe that we as teachers, I'm putting my cap more of a teacher today. I believe that as teachers, it is our job to actually highlight all this in the social media, saying that you see, this is incongruent, this is different. So how do we actually make sure students, you know, uh, interact more politely overall in the uh, in the what do you call it in the online setting? All right. So I hope that, yeah, as Yuda, right? Yuda says emoji basically complement the text online. It should be, but what if it clashes? And then, isn't that a start to some sort of a kind of a cyberbully by itself? If I were to accept that and stick to the emoji, saying that, you know, you look nice today, but basically you look like a clown, I believe that I would be sad. So I believe that all of this, if we can teach within a certain structure, perhaps students are able to politely engage better in the social media site itself. That is a personal experience. I hope that some of you would mm, how do I say, would not remember my example because that's quite personal, but I remember that quite well. You see, it sticks to my head. So basically, maybe we need to teach students to teach that emoji is as important as the text itself. Okay, I hope I can move on. Okay. Thank you, yeah, for all the feedback. I'm trying to read the text, the chat box as well as I go through my slides. If any questions or perhaps if you have any other um, uh, what's pendapat yeah in English opinions, you might just type and we can discuss. I'm open to all sort of angles, to be honest, but I'm just basing this as a sharing session based on my personal experience as the one teaching the subject and also as a teacher. All right, moving or coming back to the slides. Now we look at, I've mentioned just now that of course text, we need a different kind of analytical approach. And if we look at spoken interaction, definitely there is another tool for it. And of course, the emojis, the hashtag itself, it's very emoji and it's very much multimodal. So I'm just sharing some of the possibility of approaches to analyze all this social media discourse. The first is, of course, face work in online interaction that involves pragmatics, it involves politeness theory, and it also involves looking back and revisiting some theories such as coming from Brown and Levinson to look at how we save face in the online setting. So basically, what do we analyze? We analyze politeness through the words used, the stance, the turn taking, and all those pauses, for instance. Imagine, yeah, we are, if it's like online interaction, we don't even have pauses in threads and things like that. So how do we analyze all this and decide whether a person is polite or impolite? So again, maybe in online interaction, we can look at Facebook from a different approach and also revisit Brown and Levinson's theory. Not just that, in conversation analysis, for instance, we can use a lot of strategies. How, for instance, in teacher-student interaction itself, maybe in a class WhatsApp group, in Malaysia, we have a lot of text coming in our every WhatsApp group class, not just the classes, but we have a sports group, we have a teacher parents group, we have a lot of groups. So how does the interaction flows? How does the teacher controls the whole WhatsApp setting by itself or the environment itself? So basically, that is something that we can analyze as well using conversation analysis. The amount of turn taking between the teachers and the students, the amount of turn taking between the teachers and also the parents, it's something that we can analyze. Not just that, the type of interaction that's they have, and in terms of the speech act that they use would be very interesting. So again, how do actually students for instance, ask things in WhatsApp. Those are the things that for now, I believe, need also to be taught in class in in a very structured kind of manner, so that they know how to remain polite in asking things as well, even in online setting. Not just that, a multimodal discourse analysis. Look at the emojis just now that I've mentioned. So emojis, images, memes are all meaning-making tools. It helps complement, as what Yuda mentioned just now, it helps to complement the text, but at times the wrong or the confusing usage of all this would make the input clashes. So we are not sure which is which to hold on to when we interpret what is being told. And also in terms of identity, representation, stance, and ideology in digital talk. Okay. Okay. So there are some possible themes in social media discourse that we can look into when we are looking and use in teaching in our classroom teaching. All right. For instance, when we look at identity construction, we can look at how, as I mentioned just now, how some influencers self-brand themselves. Of course, there are two types of influencers, I believe. Some are using very negative strategy, but it hooks. Definitely, if you look at Andrew Tate, how he hooks his audience is quite different than how another person does it. Like, for instance, a Muslim scholar, they use just different types of language, and it helps to actually brand themselves and all this. If we look at how we analyze and look at the words that they use, we could realize that actually we can teach our students all this using the correct adjectives, using the right type of questions to ask the audience when they are online, or when they are actually becoming an influencer by themselves. All of this is something that, for me, I believe is teachable. But of course, again, it very much depends also in terms of the gender in which the students are. If we look from the perspective or angle of a gender discourse kind of thing, of course, how male and female talks, even in online interaction, is quite different. So I believe that if we are, women, we use hedges more as compared to men, and men are relatively more direct. In fact, even in their online interaction. So these are some possible themes or some possible things that you can ask your students to look in when they are analyzing social media text. And in terms of power and ideology, perhaps we can look at trending hashtags. Okay. When we look at hashtags, of course, it's like simple, right? Hashtags only, but all these hashtags actually has its own meaning. So, for instance, a hashtag can actually perform identity. What do I mean by that? Sometimes when we look or watch some video coming in our Instagram, and then we look at it and we say, not quite sure what this video is all about. But when we look at the hashtag, it's like Muslim scholar. It's actually advising us on certain things that we need to follow as a Muslim, perhaps. Moving on from that, hashtag also can show stance or attitude of a day. Nowadays, people actually use hashtag as a way to express feelings, like how we use emoji. Sometimes when they post pictures, they also put hashtag to indicate this is exactly how I feel today. Yay, almost done. Hashtag conference. Hashtag yikes. Hashtag tired. So all this also indicates that, not just read at the text, not just watch the video. The first thing that the students also need to look at is also the hashtag. Not just that, hashtag also creates some sort of solidarity, as we always see in now, which is very popular in my Instagram, is the Sumut Fortila. So if you are following that particular Sumut Fortila movement, you can see a lot of that. And also not just that, those are the things that control the algorithm in which students would see more of that kind of video as well. So again, teaching students maneuvering all this hashtag is also, I believe, quite important. Other than that, I think activism and also misinformation is something that is also possible. Perhaps students can be given two tags on a similar content or a similar situation and analyze, some of sort of misleading words that you can find in both types of social media site, or for instance, comparing between Al Jazeera and something else, then you can see how misleading some things are being reported about. Moving on from that, I believe that there are also parts of social media discourse that looks at language innovation, slang, abbreviation, and also hashtag as discourse markers. Discourse markers here meaning they can also, as I mentioned just now, show a lot of expressions and also a lot of situations in which the person is in. So hashtag now has its own function and has very specific function. Other than that, hold on. Oops. Community discourse. This is quite interesting, where we can look at all this social media discourse from fan community perspective or gaming discourse perspective. If we look at the gaming discourse perspective, and the people who are actually gamers, they tend to laugh together. Don't you notice that? They tend to laugh together, but if you are not really concentrating, we are not sure what are they laughing at, what are they looking at, how can they actually sit together and play games together. And surprisingly, surprisingly, friends, even the humor itself, even the laugh indicates something that contributes to them being part of that gaming society itself. Interesting, right? So all these are things that we can analyze. Is it appropriate to laugh all the way through uh, a game, or is there certain places that is polite for you to laugh and you don't laugh when certain things happen during playing of the game? um, for some people it comes naturally for some students, but some students might not have that. They might need to be introduced to all these real contexts in which language takes place. And of course, gaming is like that, but if it's like language learning forums, of course we look at many other things as to perhaps asking questions and how do we politely answer to questions. So far so good. I think I've been uh giving a lot of not to say input, a lot of information, but I failed to stop when needed to. If any questions, is there any questions? I'm so sorry, I get carried away in that sense. Any questions so far?
Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any question to our speaker, please let me know. If you want to ask directly, you can use raise hand feature, or if you just want to type, you can chat it in the chat box.
Okay, thank you so much, Madam Moderator. Usually when again, coming back to the online setting itself, and some sessions they ask, the response coming in at the end. That's quite scary because I forgot what I say. That's why I prefer, talking while addressing your comments. Because as I mentioned to Dr. Bahtia just now, actually, to be honest, a little secret with all of you. This is my first time doing this. Yeah, so I humbly apologize as well if I talk too much, or if my information is a little bit here and there. But these are the things that I really look into in discourse analysis and also in maneuvering digital platform. Okay, now we've talked about social media. We also talked briefly. I believe all of you are more expert than me in terms of the speech act theory, the politeness strategies and things like that, and how we can incorporate, all these approaches in analyzing certain themes in the social media discourse itself. But why is it so important to bring it into ELT, English language teaching? This is the core. I believe that merging both is important, as we need to teach our younger generation to maneuver this whole digital platform, because I believe that without proper guidance, a lot of things that they are exposed to as well. So why bring social media to ELT? First is to enhance pragmatic competence. When we're talking about politeness just now, it is important to look at it from that way. Not just that, it is also relevant to students' everyday communication, because like it or not, I'm not sure about you, but I see the pattern of how students actually write nowadays. Write essays, I mean, it's relatively similar to how they actually type in online setting. So they all have all these sentences which are might be acceptable in online setting, but it's not grammatically correct in examination setting, for instance. So again, we need to sort of look at all this and also look at the relevance in terms of students' everyday communication. So do we just accept our students getting, teaching like this, or learning like this, writing like this? Is it a threat, or do we believe that at the end of the day, how we write later on in 30 years would be similar to how they write in, um, online setting as well? These are the things that we might need to, decide and perhaps teach, or have a structured kind of syllabus to teach students. Because for now, I believe that particularly in Malaysia, we don't have a certain syllabus to look at how students actually maneuver social media, because that would be something interesting and worth, studying for our friends there in Indonesia. Perhaps we look at this in terms of how do we actually create syllabus on social media, maneuvering social media in English teaching as well. Okay, so sorry, moving from coming back from research, going into teaching. Now, it is also important to look at it from this perspective of developing critical digital literacy. So when we talk about critical digital literacy, I believe that it's a form of literacy to be able to understand what is being taught in the social media. But of course, not just that. It is also important to teach our younger generations on ethics, what to say, what not to say. Not just that, how do they actually create identity? What are the things that are private and should not be said? And what are the things that when they read things in the internet, do they truly believe in everything that is being said? All this coming in helps them to create a more, I believe, to help them become more critical in reading or in understanding all the inputs that they get from social media. So I believe that, part of the curriculum nowadays have to incorporate social media, at least as a teaching tool in our classes. But again, of course, some of you might believe it's not something that we can do in class, because of course, doing all this have a lot of challenges as well. I truly believe in that. If you look at it, how do we allocate time? Even the teachers in Malaysia itself, we are not equipped as much as looking at discourse analysis. There are a lot of problems if we want to incorporate all this. But of course, everything takes time. And perhaps, I don't know, I'm just positive that we can start from now. Moving on a little bit more, bridging classroom English and real world English. So again, when we talk about a real world English, I believe that, as I mentioned, there are a lot of words coming in from online nowadays that is already acceptable in our dictionary and things like that. So again, being able to use it for examination purposes, for very specific formal setting purposes is important, but also understanding English in the real world context is also as important, because at the end of the day, um, both needs a certain kind of mastery. And as we believe, it's quite different nowadays, how we talk in online setting and also in formal setting. Okay, can I move on, or should I stop here, Madam Moderator? Because the next is question and answer session, right? If I may, I would like to proceed with my next slide.
If you have still one or two more slides, I think it's okay if you want to continue the slide.
Okay. I'm just sharing brief. Thank you so much, Madam Moderator. I'm sharing some sample of classroom activity where we can actually analyze, for instance, hashtags to identify discourse strategies and also ideological implication. But again, if we look at ideology and things like this, we need to also consider the level of proficiency of our students and also the level in which the students are. If we are teaching, I believe some of us are teaching also in university level, so they might be more able to grasp this context of ideology as compared to students in, for instance, primary school. So perhaps there are certain things that we can teach in according to the level of where our students are. Okay, moving on. So these are some of the relevant Indonesian social media examples. Of course, in Malaysia as well, we have all this. But again, it really relates to the culture in Indonesia. I believe that all of us have different culture. Even I would like to share, one of a student here coming from Indonesia, he was actually looking at, the tung tung sahur thing coming from Indonesia, and he did a very good research project looking at how all these interaction with regards to that particular social media site and also video, and how and what are the responses, and also how does all this impact cultural um, aspect, and how does it promote Indonesia in general. So again, a lot can be done in this in looking at social media as well. Okay, a little bit more here before I stop. Pedagogical strategies for teachers. So basically, if we would like to try this in our classes, perhaps in terms of writing activities, we can ask students to craft social media posts for different audiences. So by asking them to explore all these in our classes, we can help them to teach, to learn a little bit of writing skills, and also to cater for different audience and different tone. If maybe sort of giving them a particular setting to help them establish the different tones and audience will also help in this writing activity. Moving on, hold on. We can also have some strategies, for instance, pragmatic practice, role play digital interactions, and also asking students to have polite versus sarcastic online replies. So by having them role play both types of digital interaction, they can actually or establish this is sarcastic. This is something that we should not do. These are the things that we should avoid, or perhaps this is the how we actually say things in a better way. So I believe that this role play would really help students to improve themselves in their online presence. Moving on, for instance, focus, compare, discuss across platforms. This is very helpful to teach as well students on writing and reading skills, where, for instance, of course, reading a Reddit post is different than reading Instagram posts and also LinkedIn. But of course, students would not be as much interested now to look at LinkedIn as compared to reading Reddit or Instagram posts. But again, how we read these two social media platforms might differ. And not just that, we can also ask students for multimodal assignments to create reels, threads that demonstrate linguistic awareness. This awareness is very important because if we are able to make them more aware of these linguistic strategies, I believe that, students are able to enjoy being online more, able to sort of not engage in cyberbullying as much. Because I believe that at times perhaps the students themselves do not know whether they are bullying, cyberbullying others. It's a notion that we might think of. They might not know that how they actually write, how they actually do things, might cause harm to others. And not just that, project-based learning, we should also look at students to conduct mini discourse analysis of a trending discourse and report findings. That's interesting as well. We can teach students also research strategies and also writing skills and how to actually report a lot of things from the internet, and also teach critical literacy and how to actually look at biases, stances, and also understanding the whole point behind the text. Okay, I have a lot more in terms of specific skills, but I believe that, yeah, listening skills, I have speaking skills, reading skills, and also writing skills. But of course, I think all of us are very much familiar with all this. It's just that we change the tools. We use social media tools to help improve our students' listening skills. For instance, perhaps we ask them to focus on the agency pairs, the discourse markers, and help students to improve their real life listening cues. That's for listening. And we have a few others. So perhaps, as promised, I will also provide the slides to the audience after this. Okay. Madam Moderator, I think as for now, I would like to establish my point that social media is important. Learning social media and how to maneuver is an important skill that we should give to our younger generation. And also considering using all these authentic tags would help in not just our language teaching and learning experience, but also we should look into how can it be incorporated in our curriculum, in our instruction, and perhaps our assessment. So a lot of things that we can work on with related to discourse analysis and also our curriculum by itself. Moving on, how does it engage students in familiar contexts? And social media is important to build critical digital literacy. I think in terms of points and knowledge, I hope that I have given a little bit of a little bit of sharing session as to what I believe is important in terms of incorporating social media in our English language teaching session in classrooms, and also in our pedagogy in general. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Ungku, for that incredibly insightful and thought-provoking presentation. You've given us a lot to consider regarding discourse analysis of social media into English language pedagogy. I'm really sorry the time is really limited, but actually we would like to learn more from you. Distinguished guests and participants, we will now move on to the question and answer session. This is your opportunity to engage actively and directly with our speaker. And of course, what an interesting lecture from Dr. Ungku. Thank you once again. And as a reminder of the rules I mentioned earlier, that you might type your question into the chat box, or if you want to ask the question directly instead of asking questions, you may discuss or share whether or not you have integrated discourse analysis in your teaching. Actually, discourse analysis becomes a powerful means to explore how language is used in digital environments. I think that would be a great discussion with Dr. Ungku. So please use the raise hand feature and turn your camera and microphone on if you want to ask any question. And don't forget to mention your full name and where you are from. Ibu Maya? Ibu Maya?
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you very, very much, Bu Diana. Dr. Ungku, thank you very much for your insightful presentation. And allow me to introduce myself. My name is Maya Puspitasari. I'm one of the lecturers in the Masters of English Education at Universitas Terbuka. And probably for your information, most students in our study program are teachers, so all over the country. So, and probably they have the same experience using social media in English language teaching. And then I've kind of held some kind of focus group discussion with some English teachers, and then they mentioned about using social media, especially YouTube, for submitting the student assignment. But then regarding to the reluctance of the students, because sometimes they say that the students were not confident to upload, for example, the video of their performing, or when the teacher want to assess the speaking, and then the teacher asked them to upload it to YouTube, and then the students were reluctant, and then they said that they're not confident enough to upload the video to YouTube. So based on your experience, probably, is there anything that as teachers they can solve the problem? Because regarding to the resistance of the students to be probably to perform publicly. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Madam Maya, for your questions. Okay. If I may, I would like to share my experience as well in terms of teaching students using YouTube. The first thing that we did in our undergraduate course is that to make it as a form of assessment. I believe your institution also did that. But we say do not publish it. We just want the YouTube link, but don't publish it yet. So because they feel less threatened because they believe that nobody is going to see it. But after that, there's also another course in this the course that I coordinate with pop culture. So in this pop culture class, actually they have to create content every single week in order to get assessed. So at first, of course, they thought that we will assess for the first 3 or 4 weeks, but no, the rubric actually started after that, after maybe the second semester, just to establish their confidence in, showing others their project or their work. Not just that, I believe that, to be honest, Madam Maya, we also a lot of videos coming in from Indonesia, from students in Indonesia to actually sort of give them motivation that, you see, actually, all of us speak good English. It's just this is our kind of English, which is maybe different than, the received pronunciation coming from British. This is what I believe also, because I think in terms of world Englishes, our English is different, but of course still comprehensible as compared to other English. So why not be motivated in that sense? Of course, I believe that Madam Maya or Dr. Maya, it takes a lot of encouragement asking the students to actually send. But that's how we start first. We don't ask them to publish yet. It's just for us. Yes.
Can I go to another question related to my first question?
Okay, sure.
Okay, so sorry about that. Regarding to the consent, because probably the students here in our study program also teach young learners, and then regarding to the ethic, should they get the parental consent first before they upload something through online? In your opinion?
Okay, in Malaysia, to be honest, at first they don't ask for that, but nowadays they do. We actually have a standardized form, but it's not coming from different institution. It comes from the ministry itself. There's a specific form that if you want to include pictures, interviews in online setting, you need or upload certain things. You need the parents' consent, because I believe nowadays, because it goes overboard, people might misuse all this information and also pictures and all this. So yeah, I remember signing, some sort of form coming from the ministry allowing my sons, to be part of a certain assessment. Yeah, I think it's necessary, just to be on the safe side.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Ungku.
Thank you, Dr. Ungku, for your response, and thank you, Ibu Maya, for the question. So, ladies and gentlemen, is there any question or anything that you want to discuss about your experiences, maybe in teaching English, using social media related to discourse analysis? Maybe unconsciously, we as a teacher teaching English using social media, but um, sometimes we don't aware that we are teaching discourse in it. Or
Let me
maybe
share my experience, Madam Moderator.
maybe if still waiting for another question, because I'm really interested in your lecture, Dr. Ungku. Maybe I want also asking the question related about discourse in the social media. Uh, Actually, based on your experience, maybe in your research, or maybe is there any differences between maybe boys and girls in using social media related to discourse? How do they use words, or maybe um, sentences? Is there any differences when they're using social media from the perspective of discourse? Maybe in your point of view. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Madam Moderator. I come to that question first, the differences between male and also boys and girls, basically. The first, in terms of the content that they usually look at. So I believe that, of course, what attracts boys is very much different to as what attracts girls. And how they engage is also very different. In the sense, if we look at how female students engage in social media and replying, they would have a lot of emotions coming in. But if we look at boys addressing the same thing, they would have a lot of straightforward answers. That's as what I have been researching. So one of my area that I like to research on is also between looking at both genders. So when we analyze, we realize that first, yes, female students have a lot of emotions. Uh, One comparison, but this moves beyond social side. I'm comparing how single father and single mother, this is one of my research currently, actually expressing themselves. in social media. And by looking at that, we analyze that, single fathers, they have a lot of things related. The words that they use, the adjectives that they use are very positive towards, for instance, work. The discourse that revolves around them is how to make money, that they are established and things like that. Same goes with the boys. When they write, they usually write more on their achievements. And for the girls, it's more of the emotion. It's always about, how do I feel? How can I cope? How does this makes me feel? These are the things that usually students would like to reply on. So in teaching, we need to have and ensure that the choices of videos that we want to show is relatively, I would say, non-biased. In the sense non-biased in the sense that it does not allow much talk about emotion, and it allows a little bit more on facts and statistics. So when I'm teaching in class, I check first the video and then generate questions to ensure that the boys and the girls have different or the questions are diverse enough for both genders to answer. So I might say, for instance, how does this video makes you feel? That's for the girl. Based on what you see, what can you summarize, and how do you interpret? Do we agree that the statistic is right? Those are the prompts that I actually create when I show certain videos in my classes. That's how different they are, and I believe that is also how different we are in our own social media site. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ungku, for your response. Now, I think we have a question from chat box. Dr. Ungku, you can see it in your chat box. There is a question from Bapak Ahmad Akbar. The question is, in what ways may the analysis of social media language in English for specific purposes enhance learners' proficiency in English within their professional or academic domains, while simultaneously fostering an appreciation of the ethical and cultural nuances of online communication?
Okay, I believe Dr. Ahmad Abba, I need to reread this because there's a lot of things, I believe, a lot of notion coming in. Hold on, give me 1 minute here to digest. Yeah, I believe the question is of how more of the approach, right, Dr. Ahmad Akbar, am I right? Yeah, hold on, yeah. I believe that the analysis of social media language in ESP helps to enhance learners' proficiency. That is definitely something that I agree. And how does it relate to the professional or academic domains? This is something interesting as well because, again, the points that I always use, of course, is very personal based on my experience. Actually, if we look at academic domain in UTM itself, when we teach all these using social media, for instance, yeah, they really improve in their presentation skill. Just giving, so basically what happens that in certain classes, we will show all these social media. The first is, I believe, how they respond critically to the things that we give in terms of the tools using social media posts. In my class, for instance, we use social media posts to discuss a lot of things, for instance, ideology and things like that. That's first part. Second part, for the general classes, we also use podcast videos. We also use YouTube videos and show students how to present better. this is actually a problem for us. I'm just sharing here, Dr. Akbar, coming from UTM. We have international students who have difficulty with their online presentation skills. Not just online, their normal presentation skills. So when we show them all these videos, they have a brief idea as to how to present better, and also not just that, to incorporate, as you mentioned just now, incorporate a little bit on the cultural aspect. Of course, not just that, we also have this session, to be honest, where we have students coming in and showing their respective culture through social media websites. Of course, there are certain countries whereby their social media platform is not accessible, or at times are different than us. So in our particular program, we have Cultural Awareness Day. Just sharing, it's where students actually show a lot of materials coming from their social media sites on their culture. That's one. Another one that I would like to share is that in this particular program, Dr. Akbar, that I'm actually coordinating, we have research projects that looks into cultural aspects shown by, for instance, Indonesians, Chinese, and then we take that as a research project and we analyze the discourse in it. So how does it relate to English language teaching pedagogy? Of course, we can actually find certain discursive strategies, certain lexical choices that is very much evident in all these social media sites, and apply in our classes. That's for our students. But I would like to also highlight that some of our students here are not coming from the English language teaching background. They also come from mass communication and also producers, and also, in fact, some of them are actually social media influencer in their respective countries. So we have a mixture of students here as well. So I hope I am able to answer a little bit of your question, although I believe that is not directly related, but I'm just sharing it based on my experience, Dr. Akbar.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ungku, for your response. And thank you, Bapak Ahmad Akbar, for the question. And now I'll take another question. I'll take from the participant who has used their raise hand feature here, from Ibu Iin Parlina.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ibu Parlina, Ibu Iin, please mention where you are from.
I'm from Tasikmalaya and I'm joining UT Bandung.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Iin.
Okay, is it clear? You can listen my voice clearly. Okay. Thank you so much for the first that I say for this chance to ask some question. As my experience as teacher, social media helped me so much to prepare the material for teaching, and my students really enjoy the class, and we can play the game. And for example, when I teach procedure text, it's very playful, and we have fun classes when I show them this is procedure text, this is the process, and then for another material too, like narrative text, and then I show them the story, and then we identify the language features and then the structure of the text, and then the students confess that it's really easy for them to understand the material from the video, from the example that I give them from social media. But as I learn from the process, from the long process, that sometimes it makes students not to be interested in reading textbook. Yeah. Okay.
I agree.
So yeah, and when I give them textbooks, they said that they cannot understand it well as like we use social media like video, YouTube or short video. And I think it's a problem because they need to read sometimes long text, but they don't understand. And they say that it's really hard to be focused on reading a textbook. So my question is how to solve this because it's really a big problem for me and as a teacher because we still need the students to read the textbook and we need them to love reading textbook, not only enjoying a movie or something like from social media. And then once again, when I give them some assignment, I see that all or almost all the answer are really template like from AI and just copy it. And then sometimes they read only at glance and then not real from their thinking. So it's very big problem for me as a teacher. So my question is how to solve this. Thank you so much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Salam, Madam Lin. Thank you so much for your sharing session. I agree. I totally agree that students are now not motivated to read the long text. They enjoy social media more than reading long text. And in addition to that so-called that problem, we also have students using AI or this, AI to enhance their writing. And of course, this is a problem by its own. I agree that, as to how to solve, I think it's quite hard to actually solve this problem. It's universal in the sense, for me, I'm just sharing my thoughts. But of course, feel free to disagree. It's maybe two ways of a mindset shift for me. First, in terms of we know that students must read long books, must read all this. But what if we are open to the possibility of actually, as we evolve moving forward, that now what hooks them more is all this digital storytelling, all these aspects, and perhaps later on, in terms of assessment, in terms of other things, we move towards that direction. Or we come back to that notion whereby students nowadays need to, read long text and also write long essays. This is a skill. I agree, definitely. We need all this. But we need some sort of a transition tool between the social media to help them actually, for instance, watching video and things like that, and start writing long text based on what they watch. Again, I believe that there's two ways to see it. The first is we teachers, educators, shift our mindset that there's always a possibility of changing the assessment later on in life. Maybe, because I don't know about in Indonesia nowadays. In Malaysia, some interviews also they rely on a lot of visual graphic resumes and things like that. So why do I mention that? Maybe later the assessment could change, because I believe that with social media, the one core problem is our students' attention span. They have less attention span as compared to us. Previously, when we were younger, I think they can hold their focus for just less than 1 minute. So that's one way to look at it. We might want to change the whole assessment, or we come back to social media. We come back to the traditional long way and writing as well, and I use that as assessment. But we have another tool to help them transition from the social media, move from that particular platform, and also coming back to a traditional assessment. or traditional way of reading longer text and whatnot. Or now, in another way, I'm just throwing ideas out loud. We transition the long text becoming digital story and things like that. We have two ways to do it. Coming back to them, or we move towards the digital aspect. So I believe there is a research gap there that we need to address as researchers as well, not just as educators, because obviously to ask me how to solve, I also fail to solve the problem, just like you, M.Pd.
Thank you so much for your explanation and for your response. It's
Yeah, thank
really helpful. So we can change the sense. What is it? Assessment. The way how we assess the student's assignment.
Yeah,
Okay,
I believe
thank you so
it will
much.
come to that. Given time, I believe the assessment will change given time, because if all students are using social media, I think we should look at it differently nowadays in terms of assessment as well. And the skills is also different than what we need now as compared to later.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you so much, Madam Lee.
Thank
Okay,
you,
you're welcome. Thank you so much.
Dr. Ungku, for your response and Ibu Iin for the question. And now we move to the next question from the chat box from Ibu Sylvia. How can studying social media conversations help students understand real life English use, especially in terms of meaning and context? In what ways do variation in tone, emojis, and abbreviations on social media shape learners' understanding of contextual meaning in English?
Oh, thank you for the question. I think being a lot on social media makes me need more extra time to read the question. Hold on, yeah, I need to read it again, just like what I did with Dr. Akbar's question just now. How can studying social media conversations help students understand real life English use, especially in terms of meaning and context? In what ways do variations in tone, emojis, and abbreviations on social media shape learners' understanding of contextual meaning in English? Wow, tough question. Thank you so much. The question is coming from, sorry,
From Ibu Sylvia.
Ibu Sylvie, right? So I believe, okay, I sort of actually prepared for that just now, just sharing. Okay, I believe in online platform, the emojis is equivalent to the tone and the prosody of things. I don't know if you agree, but we of course feel free to disagree. But I think we express our tone and mm, our feelings, yeah, through a lot of emojis. That's the function of the emojis. So there is a study whereby it compares between how actually in real life we have all this tone. Sometimes I don't know if you agree, when our boss sent us certain things to do and then we just read it flat, we don't feel that he's angry and things like that because there's no emoji involved and you feel still relaxed of not completing the work. But yes, there is a study that says that nowadays the emoji actually replaces the tone and also the prosody that we have in normal conversation. And not just that, I believe that when we look at conversation analysis, yeah, in digital setting, it's actually quite different as compared to how they are in real life. Real life meaning, of course, different in the sense it's more it's not as coherent. I believe it's more coherent as compared to real life. And of course, teaching students, for instance, yeah, spoken interaction in online, looking at, for instance, turn taking, the pauses when we are interacting online, just like how I am actually, pausing in certain times to reflect what is it humor, is it me thinking what to answer, and all those help students to actually learn how to actually use this in a real life setting. How do I explain this pada ya? Hold on. For instance, in a class that we had, we analyzed. I'll just give an example. This coming from our class. We analyze interaction. It's a data set coming from another lecturer which looks into tough communication. So in this particular setting, the setting was talking about interview of how actually doctors break news to patients about you are terminally ill, you will die soon, and things like that. And based on the interview, students learn that the pauses when the doctor stop reflect something. And the longer they pause, the heavier the news. And that's how we actually teach students, by analyzing the turn taking, for instance, between, looking at turn taking in terms of talks, talking about Palestine and things like that. And we realized that, how the interviewer pauses, how the respondent or the one being interviewed answers, and the turn taking, and also a lot of agency seekers coming in. All of these relate to politeness, relate to basically relate more to politeness. So hence these are the things that we highlight basically in our classes, to look at the examples and perhaps think about why people are doing certain things that they are in real life, and are you doing the same? If yes, is it a good thing? If no, how do you improve? These are the common questions that we ask basically in the lessons that we share using YouTube interviews, and also some interviews that we have as our data. I hope it answers a little bit of the question that is being asked.
Thank you, Dr. Ungku, for your response. And for Ibu Sylvia, thank you for the question. And now, Dr. Ungku, we have still one question from the chat box from Ibu Juhana. How do you think analyzing social media discourse can help students not only improve their language skills, but also develop critical thinking about digital communication?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. Digital literacy is important. Digital communication, as I believe, that was the question, right? Hold on. Okay, how do you think analyzing for social media discourse can help students not only improve their language skills, critical thinking about digital? Okay, this is something that I actually like to do in class, especially related to media postings in relation to something topic that is related to not to say political, but more of a geopolitical context. For instance, we look at Sumur Portilla, how we are trying to go to Gaza and things like that. But that is things that I use as an example in class, and then I would like them to compare how those things are being reported in different media and by different media. How do I say? Different types of media, for instance, Al Jazeera and our local newspapers, or our local, not newspapers, or online news platform. So then we would slowly look at all the linguistic devices. That's for my class, linguistic devices that shows how biased certain things are or how misleading certain aspects are. That itself helps to improve their critical thinking skills. Not just that, I think that by using all the social media examples, we can also teach them ethics. Not ethics just as the one posting, the one consuming the knowledge, but more of ethics as a human being as well. So all of this, I think if we use real life context, it is more relatable in that sense. Not just looking at that from that perspective. I think we can also teach students to look at biases, to look at how certain misinformation and also certain things that is being not told, silenced or gatekeep from us should have been mentioned but was not mentioned. Uh, all these things, I think we can use social media text to help us to show all this because I think when we use again, as I mentioned, real life context, it's more relatable and I sort of believe that students remember better. But these are the things that I do to help them improve on the critical thinking aspect. And if there is a way to improve as to how certain media or certain news is presented, how would we do it? These are the things that I usually ask students at the very end of class when we have discussion session. I hope Madam Johanna would be, I have managed to answer that question.
Thank you, Dr. Ungku, for your response, and thank you, Ibu Johanna, for the question. And now we still have one question again in the chat box from Ibu Wita Aryani. There are two questions about Dr. Ungku perspective. How if the institution or school in this case give the limited access to the use of gadget for their students, while we know that gadget can improve the language from the practice through the social media, specifically learning from YouTube or the other media, because in their age, students need some places to express their feelings through media. And the second question, maybe Dr. Ungku, can you give us some examples about how to treat the student through the usage of social media, especially for junior high school in the context of Malaysia? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for reading the question, Madam Moderator. Okay, hold on, yeah. Give us an example how English. Okay, first of all, in Malaysia, still, I would say that social media in class or bringing gadget to school is still not allowed. But there are certain schools who are actually transitioning. Their students are allowed to bring iPad to school. But again, it's control. I think there are certain ways we can actually control the things that students view. It's similar to that parental control thing that we have to actually control the things that students see in their respective social media. That's first. But there are schools now trying to transition, moving, allowing students to bring gadgets to school. And for this particular school, usually the textbook is not given. In the sense, they use digital textbook. So they are allowed to actually watch certain things, but they are not allowed to watch certain things as well in classroom settings. But yes, whatever it is, I believe the role of the teacher is to actually also look first at the social media platform. We cannot, because they are young learners, we cannot let them go freely in that way. There must be certain form of control. But how do teachers control the students? It's basically on what are the things that students can see in class time. Of course, when they are outside, we can't control. But what are the things that we can teach? That we can use as a tool in our teaching context. Those are the things that we can actually check first. For instance, in Malaysia, you as a teacher you have to be very careful on the things you want to show, especially related to social media and things like that. Because first it has to be uh, non-biased, uh, not culturally sensitive, not racist in one way or another. Those are the things that we need to really, really scrutinize before use it as a tool in class. But of course, when we say we want to use YouTube media as outlet for students' expression and things like that, we also encourage them to do that. Only after we provide enough support in terms of the linguistic aspects. In my case, it's linguistic aspects or critical thinking aspect of what to put and how to put themselves in the social media. Again, as I mentioned, if we analyze social media using discourse analysis, we can see that there's many ways people show how they are, the identity that they form in the social media. So maybe we can show very good influences and analyze them together with our students and then show them, okay, these are the strategies. You might want to use them or you might want to use these strategies to show who you are in your the online presence in your own respective digital platforms, so that at the end we can have many influences coming from Malaysia, from Indonesia, who are not just modest but full of culturally aware of how they are and are very different from the Western context. I'm also involved in one research, just sharing, to actually exemplify how influences, especially modest influences coming from Indonesia, Malaysia, and UK, and the linguistic devices they use to show the modesty. So when we analyze, it seems that they are patterns of how they actually show themselves, and perhaps if we can sit down and just do something about it, we can actually give this information to our younger female generation. And you see, this is how actually you show yourself to the world. So hopefully, uh, we don't have to get kicked after this. We know that our younger generations are able to use digital platform in a very ethical manner and present themselves in a very positive manner, I would say.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ungku, for your response, and thank you for Ibu Wita for the question. Ladies and gentlemen, is there any question that you want to ask to our speaker, Dr. Ungku? Okay, and here we have Ibu Rudiana Ana. Please tell where you are from.
Please tell where I'm from.
Ibu Ana, you are still muted. Can you please?
Okay, sorry. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Rudiana from West Sulawesi. I want to ask you a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. How to understand the characteristic and mental health state of children from their body language, both physically and emotionally, when using the social media in offer. When we see everything in social media right now present on something contains the element like like violence and pornography. And what you thinking about the children in under 8 years old from their mental health.
Thank you, Ibu Rudiana, for the question. Dr. Ungku?
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Rudiana. Let me get the question correct. She asked me about what is my perspective about mental health of students
Yes.
watching social media. Am I right?
Yes.
To be honest, Madam Rudiana, I can't answer that because I think there's another rubric for that in order for us to determine the mental health. Somehow I would say there is no, I have not yet found, but of course it is evolving. There is no way to actually analyze mental health through the language that we use or the way we talk in social media. As for now, there is no direct correlation as to we cannot safely say, okay, this is how a person is, for instance, he might be manipulative or he might be, mentally ill. And you cannot determine that he's mentally ill just by looking at how he interacts in the social media. There must be another form of assessment in order for us to 100% determine the mental health of a particular person when they are interacting in social media. But if you're asking me about what do you think, is it good or bad if students look at social media all the time when they are just 8 years old, of course, it will affect their mental health because it really depends again on the algorithm that we mentioned just now. The algorithm of what they watch is determines how they see the world. And how do we control them? Is by teaching them the hashtag, what they see is important. And again, how do we relate to discourse analysis? Is like by teaching them, the hashtag of things that they are watching is important. And of course, what we see is very different from one another, and it is very much related to the algorithm that is that suits the things that we actually scroll. So we have, as teachers, we have to make sure that students watch the correct things, and as parents, we need to control. How do we control? Of course, the device itself nowadays have its own parental control system. Other than that, we have to be involved. When they are watching things, we have to watch together so that we know exactly what they are watching. This is also something that I think as we become more busy in life, we forget that it's a tool. They cannot replace us as parents, definitely, and as teachers. So we have to control what they see. All right.
Yeah, because we see now that many children are following foreign language without understand their meaning. Like you say before is like example tuntung sahut, and then you see right now the language from many countries and child just accept what they hear.
I agree. Yeah. Some of them might just accept whatever that they have seen in social media. Again, coming back to that critical thinking or critical digital literacy skill is very important to actually teach students what is acceptable, what is not, what is acceptable in Indonesian culture, what is not. How do you relate to viewing things in social media as an Indonesian, as compared to watching it as Malaysian perhaps, or maybe a China student. There are things I agree that might not be culturally sensitive. So again, that is something we can also touch on in our classes using social media.
Actually, just for information, I already stay in Malaysia for 5 years ago. Okay, ma'am, thank you for your information, and then it's very, very good. Okay, thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Dr. Ungku, for your response, and thank you for Ibu Rudiana Anna for the question. I think that's the last question, Dr. Ungku, from our discussion, question and answer session. Once again, thank you very much for answering our question, Dr. Ungku, so clearly, and thank you for all participants for your active engagement and excellent questions. Due to time constraints, we must now conclude the question and answer session. Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of our discussion session. And to quickly recap, today we have explored the exciting and landscape of integrating discourse analysis of social media into English language pedagogy. From what Dr. Ungku has illuminated in her presentation, that social media has significantly transformed the way people communicate and offers authentic, dynamic, and multimodal examples of real-world discourse like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and then, of course, integrating discourse analysis of social media into English language pedagogy serves as uh, to bridge the gap between formal language instruction uh, and contemporary communicative practices and fosters a contextualized, relevant, and critical approach to language learning. Of course, it also enables the learners not only to understand how English operates in real digital environments, but also to use it purposefully, critically, and ethically. In what in a world where communication increasingly happens online, equipping students with the tools to analyze and produce digital discourse is no longer optional, but it is essential. Well, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and esteemed participants, on behalf of the organizing committee from Universitas Terbuka Postgraduate School and personally as your moderator, I'd like to express our deepest gratitude to our esteemed speaker, Dr. Ungku Khairunnisa binti Ungku Muhammad Nordin, for her valuable time and outstanding presentation. We are truly enriched by your insights. Our sincere thanks also go to Professor Dr. Insinyur Maman Rumanta M.Si, Director of Postgraduate School of Universitas Terbuka, for his welcoming remarks and support for this event. Big thanks to the committee of this public lecture event. Finally, thank you to all participants for your presence, attention, and active participation throughout this public lecture. We hope you found the session beneficial and inspiring. Before we fully conclude, please pay attention to the following important information regarding to the attendance list. The link for the attendance list, which is required for your certificate of attendance, will be shared in the chat box shortly. Please make sure to fill it out completely with your correct name and email address by the end of the session. Now, let's take group photo to capture this wonderful moment together. Please turn on your camera and give us your best pose with your smiling face, and our organizing team will guide you. And please, the organizing team to guide us now.
Iya, selamat sore Ibu-Ibu, Bapak-Bapak. Aku izin foto ya. Oke, di slide pertama, aku hitung ya. 1, 2, sudah siap semua? 1, 2, 3. Tunggu. Oke, selanjutnya slide kedua. Aku hitung ya. 1, 2, 3. Oke. Tunggu. Oke, slide ketiga. Aku hitung ya, 1, 2, 3. Oke, slide keempat yang terakhir. Aku hitung lagi ya, 1, 2, 3. Baik, sudah semuanya, Bu. Terima
Okay, thank you.
kasih. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for being with us today. We hope you found the session insightful and engaging. Don't miss our upcoming public lectures, proudly presented by Postgraduate Program in English Education at Universitas Terbuka. Wishing you a pleasant and productive afternoon. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan, Rahayu, and good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Ungku.
Thank you very much, everyone. I humbly
Thank you very much,
apologize if
Dr.
I said
Ungku.
something that has
Thank you
offended
very
you
much,
in a
Dr.
way or
Ungku dan Bu
another.
Diana.
Minta maaf ya kalau ada kekurangan dari pihak saya.
It's okay, Doctor.
Recording stopped.